Catio ears.
Hey y'all, and thanks for tuning in. I made a Catio some time ago. We moved in here about a year ago. It's coming up on a year. And we moved from a place where we had our own screened-in porch that we allowed our cats to go out onto all the time, and they loved it. And when we moved into our new house, we didn't have one of those. So what was one of the first things that we did was we set up an appointment and figured out what we wanted to do and got a contract and all that stuff. But the problem was we were like 10 months behind. So we were 10 months down the line before we were able to actually have the thing built. My wife was concerned about that, and so we decided we'd go ahead and build a little Catio for them. And it turned out so nice and the cats loved it so much that now I have to move it because we're gonna have a screen-in porch put in place where it is now, and we've decided we're just gonna go ahead and keep the thing, move it down the house a little ways, put it next to another window, and that's what we're going to be doing today, is moving it. But first, I do want to show you what the Catio looks like and kind of go over what I did and the process. And you see, we already have a patio here, and this is the Catio. It's a little screened-in, wood-framed. It's almost kind of like a little zoo exhibit. You can see here I've got some branches I just cut down from out in the woods, nice little curvy branches that I was able to then turn, connect to the wood frame just with screws. The whole thing is about 15 feet long, and you can see here it's attached there, and then it's also attached to the wall with these brackets. And here's my little handle, which isn't great, but you can get in by just putting that like that. Here's my cat and the cat window, which is currently locked, so they can't come out here right now. And you can see here, this is attached to the house. This is a plastic type roof, clear, it's attached. Got some hanging plants in here, several platforms. Cats love that one. And we got some ramps here, or shelves that they can walk around on a lot. And so this is what we're going to move today. We're going to move it, slide it down the house, and put it right here. So this will be the window, the new window for them to come in and out. Now these boxwoods, there were 4 here. I removed one yesterday and it took me like 3 hours. And it's about ready to be super hot around here. So, and this Catio needs to be removed in the next like 4 days, because they could be calling us to tell us that it's time to install the screen-in porch. Okay, so I got all of the screws removed. Catio's just standing freely right now. And I wanted to point out a couple things to you guys, give you a closer look. Now the reason I used a 6x6, I think that's what this is, or maybe it's a 4x4. But anyway, it's nice and heavy. And I wanted a heavy base to protect from wind. But of course I didn't want to screw a whole bunch of holes into my patio. That was the other reason I used it, so that I could just attach it in a couple of places, and then I could use as many screws as I wanted on the smaller wood above it. All of the screen here is hammered in with staples to give it a nice hard, sturdy attachment there. And I also wanted to point out these squares, like how big they are. I've seen people make Catios with smaller squares. They're worried about the cats getting through. And what I learned was, essentially, if a cat can fit their head through the hole, then they can get their whole body through. And these are definitely small enough my cats cannot get their heads through, though they had certainly tried. The other thing I wanted to point out was these brackets here holding it to the house. They weren't quite long enough, and so I had to notch them out here so that they would fit and get a nice solid attachment there. And you can see here, this is a concrete anchor that I drilled out and then just attached it directly into this mortar here. I'm hoping that I don't have to attach, or rather take these off, but I might have to in order to move this thing. We're going to see how it goes. Hopefully I can just pull this thing away from the house, slide it on down that way. Also, how I'm going to do this, or at least this is the theory, right? This little tool here, which came with a bunch of furniture sliders that I have, and I'm going to try and pop these underneath it so I can just slide it on down that way. I have used these for many things. They come in handy all the time, especially if you're moving from a house, or if you're rearranging a room. You can move furniture all by yourself with these. I have used these to move a pool table by myself. They work great. Now, how well they're going to work on this Catio, I don't know. But those bolts, those brackets down on the bottom, I'm going to probably just bend the brackets down flat and then try to pull it out over them. Here we go. Well, as you can see, it's kind of working. Slow going, but we'll get there. I'm going to clean up a little bit around here before we move it a little further. Okay, we got it moved. It's not in its permanent spot yet. We got to remove those bushes down there before we can slide it over. But I did want to show you these bolts, or these brackets, how they're bolted into the patio. They have four bolts per bracket. I should be able to just move these easy enough right on down there. But that's going to be for another day once we get the plants removed, and we'll get back to that later. I got one up so far with this farm jack tripod contraption. The first bush I pulled up was over here, and I dug it out. That took me about 3 hours. Now I admit there's a little bit of a learning curve on how to use this, going to get it, learning how to use it, etc. And you know, there's a million farm jack videos on YouTube, so I figure let's do it again, and I'll show you kind of what I did to pull these bushes out. Easy peasy. Once you get it set up, it took me about 5 minutes to do that one that was in the center there, but I just want to show you this. So these two 2x4, this is a 2x4 that I cut in half, and then I drilled a 5/8 inch hole here and here, just kind of put them together, and I've attached it to the jack here. And when I drilled these holes for the 2x4s, I actually had them leaning just like this against one another, and then I tried to drill straight through, because initially I drilled them straight through perpendicular, and these things just wanted to stay up and down. There was no give, no movement back and forth. Now I can move them a little bit to stretch them out, because those holes are dug the way they are. Okay, so I'm going to work on another bush here. We'll pick this one, and we're just going to tie this chain around the base of the bush, get it as tight as possible, and get it around underneath the very bottom of the root ball if we can, or the very top of the root ball, the very underneath part of the bush, and have no branches be below the chain. Whenever you're doing any kind of project like this, safety first. Gloves, glasses, minimum. Okay guys, that second one gave me a little trouble. Hopefully this third one will go a little smoother and come up on the first try. Got the bushes done. Now it's time to clean up this area and put in some pavers. And then we're gonna get that catio moved right on down. Okay guys, today we are going to slide the catio down. I don't have any help at the moment, so hopefully I'll be able to move it by myself. See how it goes. Folks, we're starting off with a shot of the 4 boxwoods that I transplanted. They are down there. They have not turned yellow, and they're still green. I've been watering them every day. We've been getting lots of rain lately, so far so good. And we've cleaned off the patio. And of course, we've moved the catio, but today we're going to start trying to reattach it to the house in its new spot. And we've got a problem. It's too tall. I don't know why. It seems taller down here. It might be because these rocks and dirt are a little bit higher than the patio. It could be a leveling issue. But for whatever reason, the soffit is not going to allow me to put the catio underneath it in the same way that I had it in there before. So, I think I've come up with a solution. This heavy base at the bottom, the entire catio is sitting on top of. I'm going to take it off and move it so that the catio sits to its side. So this will kind of be on the inside of the catio, and we will attach it with screws going sideways instead of the way it is now, which is screwed down into it. And that should lower the whole thing by 4 inches. had a couple of screws that were kind of buried in the wood. I didn't think were in there, or they were hidden somewhere and I couldn't get it off, but I eventually found them all, got it completely off. And we got plenty of room now to get this thing underneath. But what we're gonna have to do is dig a couple of little trenches for this to sit in, and also the 4x4. And then, since I can't bolt the brackets down into the ground, I'm gonna use spikes. So we're gonna build another one over here, and we'll spike in the bracket and then attach the whole thing to the bracket. 171. 173 1/4. Okay, as you can see, yesterday I cut this thing off, made it smaller, and it was difficult. My saw blade doesn't go deep enough to cut it in one swoop, and had to flip it over and then use a chisel, and that just didn't make it look very good. And in the end, it's still not short enough. And also, we're definitely gonna have to cut the ends off of these side pieces. So what that means is I'm gonna have to get out the big guns. I didn't want to have to do that because it's a pain just to make a few cuts, but I think that's gonna be the simplest thing to do to get this done right. Inside frame has been cut to fit. We're going to attach it together right there with another bracket in a minute here. So I think we're ready to attach the frame to the concrete and the stakes in the ground. Got to dig another trench, and then we'll attach the whole Catio to the frame. Okay, hopefully this will be our last day on this project. I'm sure you noticed that the tower has been removed. Basically decided it was too big for the area. Cats might have access to the roof without me making more modifications, which is very difficult when it's underneath the soffit there. And it wasn't sitting very well on these rocks. Made it hard to get by if I need to get in there to clean it. So it's gone. And we'll figure out what to do with it. But today, we're going to attach the Catio to the base as best we can. It of course did not fit as well, you know, back together as it did when it was over in the other place and everything was on top. But my plan is to go ahead and screw it in from the sides while I have it clamped together. And hopefully that will bring everything into place, bend it all into where it needs to be, and we'll have a nice solid Catio once again. Okay, drilling these brackets back into the wall, and at the other place I had them drilled into the mortar. Of course it's not lining up quite right, but I think I can stretch them. I tried drilling directly into the brick, was not very successful. Probably don't have the right type of hammer drill for this, but going into the mortar is not too bad. Okay folks, I think we're on day 6 of this. I apologize if the camera's a little foggy. It's very humid out here and the camera's been inside and trying to wipe the lens off. But anyway, we just need to get some of this dirt out of here. I'm going to install this temporary ramp coming out of the window, think of something else later, and get the big branch back on the thing here. And that's the plan for today. So hopefully the camera will adjust soon and I can get going on this. Okay, bam, that's it. Thank you folks for watching. I appreciate you making it all the way to the end of the video. I hope it's given you some ideas, some inspiration on how and what you can do for your own Catio. I did want to drop in just a couple more final thoughts. The bottom, since it's mostly rock now, I'm most likely going to go ahead and put in some more pavers eventually. It just seems like the cats are a little more comfortable walking on the flat surfaces than they are on the rocks. They will walk on the rocks if they need to, and they've even I've seen them laying on the rocks, but they definitely seem to prefer the more flat edges of the concrete and the wood and the platforms and all that. So we'll get some more pavers in there for them and make it a little bit more comfortable. And then secondly, this modification that I made where I put the frame on the inside of the Catio, man, that was it. That made the Catio better. I should have made it that way to begin with. It's just the walls are much more steady now, and you know, they don't rock back and forth. I think they're more protected from wind than they were before. And whereas, you know, when they were on top, I could grab that wall and kind of move it a little bit. And you know, the cats weren't going to knock it down. It was not going to be a problem. But now that it's just so much more stable, I'm just like, man, I should have done this in the first place. So real glad I did that. And thanks again for tuning in. And please enjoy the next one, whenever that might be. You guys have been great. Thanks a lot. Peace out.